Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. I am Troy Otradovic. As always, I'm joined with my co-host, Evan Witallison. Today, Evan, at least we figured out a way to make it on time. I know yesterday was so hectic, and, with our professional schedules, we try to make it as consistent as we can for the listeners. But, usually around 5 o'clock is when we want to run the show. Always glad to have you on the show. Today, it is, we moved it back one day, but we've got Packer preview on a Friday, and it is a huge game for Green Bay. Packers versus Steelers Sunday, Evan's first regular season game at Lambeau Field. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be exciting. And the weather. A lot, and no Aaron Rodgers playing. A lot of stuff going on. Going to be a great Sunday. So sit back, everyone. Listen to us ramble. Packer preview. And Evan, we're going to get into the keys of the game. We're going to get into what the Packers have to do and the importance of this game. But before we do that, we've got to, briefly talk, give the update. I know you and I are both sick of it, but the decision came down. The starter was named today, so I'll let you take it over from there.
Well, as you mentioned in the intro, no Rodgers again on Sunday. He's not been medically clear yet. Mike McCarthy said today in his press conference that as an organization, they don't feel he's ready to go. He wasn't getting specifics on who made that ruling, but my guess is it was probably the team doctor said that he didn't feel comfortable signing off on it. And ultimately, it's, as I said yesterday on our Rambo, it's up to the team doctor. And the team doctors are there for a reason. They are to protect the players from themselves. It doesn't matter how badly he wants to play. It depends on if the bone is healed enough to play. So there'll be no Rodgers again. It will be Matt Flynn. But some other news, Johnny Jolly to get placed on the season-ending injured reserve today. Randall Cobb practiced again today. We'll see what news comes out of it, but I tend to doubt we'll see him on Sunday. But he hasn't been medically cleared yet, but he also hasn't been ruled out yet for Sunday. And then C.J. Wilson looks like he might be able to play on Sunday as well. So they lose Jolly for the game, but they do have C.J. Wilson possibly coming back, so that should be good.
Yeah, that'll be really good. I had mentioned yesterday, and definitely get into some of the keys to the game, that depth at defensive line is going to be key to be able to contain Ben Roethlisberger. But as we take it away, this is, of course, a rematch from the Super Bowl. It's all I heard about today. Of course, living in Pittsburgh, Evan. I'm taking my ribbing. People I work with, people I know in Pittsburgh, say that they're going to Lambeau Field. They're going to ruin our playoff hopes. Let's talk about how the Packers can win this game. So what are your keys to victory for the Packers to win on Sunday, to really then set the matchup against the Bears in Week 17?
Well, my first key, and I think you're just going to smack me because I was kind of chuckling during the pre-show when you were saying your first one, and it's like we are on the same wavelength. I'm not, saying it a little differently than you were, but the key is they have to start fast. They cannot get off to a slow start again like they have the last two games. They have to start fast, and they have to, you said it pre-show, be consistent. They have to play a complete football game. So I'm stealing one of yours already right off the bat.
You're stealing my only one.
The second key is pardon?
I said you're stealing my only one. I mean, I've got other stuff, but that's the big one. And off of that one comes a lot of other keys.
I was struggling a little bit during pre-show when you started mentioning it.
Well, I think we're at the point now, Evan, we've been doing this together every day for 3 months. That's why yesterday during the show, I'm like, for the first time in a long time, I am not joined by my co-host at the beginning of a show. And it's right, though. We chuckle at each other. We're on the same wavelength. The keys you're going to give, I'm going to expand on them. Just being with you the time we have. I know where you're going with this, so throw key number 2 out. But I agree with you, and I'll get into what I mean too about the consistency when I get into a couple things to add that I want to while you're talking. But take it away. Key number 2 to this game, bud.
Well, I know the Steelers don't rush the passer like they have in years past. I believe Woodley, correct correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Woodley is out for the game again. He's missing another game. And like I said, they don't rush the passer like they used to, but they're going to send heat on Flynn. So they have to protect Flynn. The offensive line has to step it up. The tight ends have to step it up, and they have to give Flynn a clean pocket to make his reads and step up and throw. Because the Steelers are going to bring pressure. It's a Dick LeBeau defense, and he loves trying to dial up pressure. And he hasn't been able to much this year. It's kind of the same problem the Packers have had due to injury and personnel, but expect LeBeau to try to do what he can to bring pressure. And then one of the other keys is they have to get Eddie Lacy going early. If Lacy can get going early, put them in better, second and short, third and short, it puts Flynn in better position to be successful. If he's able to be able to complete those short passes to Andrew Corliss or John Kuhn, which I tend to usually hate when they go to Kuhn because he normally only gets a yard and then falls down. But still, get the ball to him, get the ball to Nelson short and let him break a few tackles. And they should, do really well on the other end when they get pressure on Roethlisberger. They have to get him to the ground. Winning first and second down on defense isn't going to be enough. On third down, if it's third and long, Roethlisberger is big enough and skilled enough that he can run around all day back there in the pocket until somebody gets open. So they have to get pressure on him, and they have to get him to the ground. The first or second guy has to get him to the ground. They can't give him time to run in the pocket. So those are my big keys. The obvious one, protect the football, especially with the way the weather's going to be. For my part of the state, Milwaukee area, starting Saturday night at 6 o'clock, we're under a winter storm warning. And my part of the state, they're calling for up to 6 to 9 inches of snow. Not sure what they're calling for up in the Green Bay area, but weather Sunday should be a big factor in the game. So those are just my keys to victory.
Well, and they're good ones, and like we talk about, very similar. I have my key to this game is what you've been saying the last 2 weeks in the recap. Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde. We start off slow. We get in a hole. We've got to make a comeback. I guess we can give credit to the adjustments were made. We made the comeback. I'd like to see this week that we don't have to worry about the adjustments to come back from a 10, 14-point, 23-point deficit. And I really believe what you're saying there right off the bat. They have to start fast. And it doesn't necessarily mean starting fast and getting out and running out to a 21-0 lead. I don't think that's what you mean either. I think you're talking about moving the football, playing good defense, keeping the game close, being able to trade points for points, 3 and outs for 3 and outs, and those things like that. That's what I'd like to see. And that consistent type play, if that's what happens, then I believe we'll win the game. I looked at the game that the Steelers played against the Bengals on Sunday night. Everybody says, well, the Steelers are a good team. Their defense is good. Look what they did to the Bengals. And I'm not going to take anything away from the Steelers' defense. When I looked at the numbers, Evan, and this may even surprise you, that defense is ranked 11th in the NFL. It's 8th against the pass and 19th against the run. Not terrible, not awesome, but a good defense. But when I looked at the game against the Bengals handed them that game in special teams. The punter dropped the ball on the 1-yard line, and Brown returned the punt for a touchdown. There's 14 points right there.
And the punter got his head knocked off.
And the punter, yeah, I feel sorry for that guy. He really got walloped. I mean, wow, that was quite a hit.
Fractured his neck too.
I know, that was. Whew. That guy, I feel sorry for him. I mean, whew, that just to get knocked out like that. But when we look at that, Evan, take those 14 points away. I mean, I'm not saying that they might have not scored on those drives, but the final was 30-20, and the Bengals came back after the Steelers had built that big lead. You can put up points on this Steelers defense, and it comes due, and I'm gonna touch on your point with Eddie Lacy. and especially if the weather is bad. If the weather is what it's supposed to be and those inches and inches of snow fall, I think Eddie Lacy is the perfect back for that. Because when he gets going forward, it's hard to take that guy down. And that's what we're going to need in that weather. You know, when you look at that, Evan, let's kind of pretend that we're going to get 3 to 6 inches at Lambeau Field. And we've got Eddie Lacy in the backfield. How do you think that then affects the game when we can just pound the ball to Eddie Lacy? What's your thought on that?
Well, it's going to, wear the Steelers out a little bit. They're going to then have to bring people into the box. It opens up the passing game a bit. And, the way Lacy runs, he uses, short, choppy steps as it is. And when you're getting in slick field conditions like that, you have to use short, choppy steps to try to get upfield and run and stuff like that. You can't run like you would normal, on a regular field. You have to, like I said, short, choppy steps, and that benefits Lacy because that's what he does anyway.
Yeah, and that's
so I think the Steelers' running game has gotten better, but if the Packers are able to start fast and get some points on the board, it takes the running elements out of the Steelers' game, and they're going to have to throw it. And if they keep Roethlisberger off the field by running Lacy, even better.
Well, yeah, and I just laughed when I heard this week, and they had asked Tomlin about Bell or Lacy. I don't know if you heard anything about that. I just laughed when I heard it.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, are you really asking him that question?
No take Bell.
I mean, I look at that, and not to get off topic, but I think it was pretty relevant because they brought it up this week, and it's like, well, you know what? Any coach, any team, you're looking at players that are going to fit into your team. And they thought Bell was a good fit for their team. It really, they thought Bell at that point would fit in better with Lacy. I have no qualms about what Tomlin said, and that's fine. But I don't know why they got blown out of proportion so much about, the sniff on Lacy and snubbed Lacy. No, they didn't. They thought Bell fit better in what they wanted to do offensively, so that's who they took.
Yep.
Big deal. Let it go. For the Packer fans, it's awesome. I'm glad we got Lacy. I couldn't believe he slipped to us at that point, and I'm like, hey, that's a great pick. I know we had the injuries and the question marks. But you know what? The guy is still a quality running back, and he's proven his worth. And so I just laughed when I heard that come out. I'm like, really? You asked him that question? I mean, what is he supposed to say? Yeah, I wish we had Lacy. I mean, who would say that if Lacy was in Pittsburgh that he would be doing the same thing he was doing in Green Bay right now? It's all how you use the running back and what you want him to do in your system. And I think Bell's doing a formidable job for the Steelers. And I think as he grows, he'll be a decent back for him. I mean, I think they made the right pick. I mean, he fits in their offense. Would Lacy? He could. We don't know. But I didn't mean to get off point there. What did you think about that article when it came out?
All right.
What was your thought when you saw that come out on the news about the Tomlin and the Lacy and the Bell question?
Well, Tom, I think the writer or the reporter that asked that question, I think he knew what answer he was going to get when he asked the question. Because even if Tomlin would have preferred Lacy now, he's still going to say he's happy with his pick. He's happy with Bell. He did get into a little bit more of the reasoning on why they selected Bell, which I think cracked a bunch of crap because Lacy's shown he can catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield as well. I believe he's got 32 or 33 receptions on the year. So he's shown that he can catch out of the backfield well. And other than one play against Atlanta, he's been pretty reliable in pass protection too when they've asked him to do that. So the reasoning he gave, I think, a bunch of crap. But, he was, doing what we like to call coach speak.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the reporter knew how he was going to answer the question, but he still wanted to ask it.
Yeah, it just made me laugh. But to get back to the keys to the game, I had actually watched NFL Network this morning. They had Clay Matthews on. It was a good piece. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that. They had talked about Big Ben.
No, I wasn't able to.
It was a great piece, and they might replay it. I'm not sure. Good interview this morning on NFL Network, on NFL AM. But it goes kind of to your fourth point, and being able to keep Big Ben in the pocket. My key to this game, defensively, I want Big Ben throwing out of the pocket. I don't want Big Ben shuffling his feet and rolling and extending plays because, of course, Evan, being in Pittsburgh, I get to see almost every play of the Steelers game. I get to see the recap. I get to listen to the radio shows. Big Ben, in my opinion, is probably one of the top quarterbacks at extending plays. And the one that kills every team he plays is when they get the pressure to the outside, almost behind him, and he's able to slide up into the pocket and slide to his right. When he does that, I don't think he incompletes a pass. It's like he has this crazy vision. And he steps up, slides up in that little hole, and then gets to his right because the linebacker's coming up, and he finds a receiver. If the Packers can find a way to keep him in the pocket and pressure the pocket and have gap control up the middle so he can't do that, I think we're in good shape. Do you know what I'm talking about when he slides up into the pocket, Evan?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
What do you think about that? How do you think?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
How do you think they can? I was going to ask, how do you think the Packers can do that? Because we know that sometimes we have a problem getting some pressure, and we bring Matthews from the outside, and we bring our outside guys. And now with Jolly gone in the middle, how are we going to be able to stop that type of pocket movement from Big Ben?
Well, one of the things the Packers did last week against the Cowboys later in the game, and I think it actually led to Dayton Jones' sack. They actually sent Matthews from the middle. They had Daniels in. Daniels got a bull rush on. They put Matthews behind them. Matthews flushed Romo out of the pocket, and Dayton Jones got him to the ground. I think they got to do more of that early. Not wait till the second half to throw those type of blitzes in there. Put Matthews, hide Matthews in the middle, and send him up the middle on a delayed blitz. That kind of keeps him from being able to step up in the pocket a little bit.
Well,
that would be a huge advantage if they do it.
I love that blitz. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I like it, and I think that's exactly the way that Capers is going to have to approach that. Because the last point to this is, it's one thing to get pressure on Big Ben, but you've got to get him to the ground. He is a big guy to take down, and I had mentioned it yesterday. The second guy is going to have to be able to finish it off. Sometimes the first guy doesn't do it, and I know you said that the first or second guy has to do it. I'll be okay if they can get the waves going, and you know what I mean by the waves. The second guy comes in and finishes them off.
Yeah.
That first guy has got to hold him up. If Big Ben sheds the first guy, that's how he's successful. He just sheds the guy, gets him to the ground, gets him off the play. That first guy, whether or not he's the one bringing him down, he's got to slow him up so the second guy can come in and finish him off. And I think the Packers have the ability to do that. And I think we're going to see Capers dial up some more blitzes this game because I think the cornerbacks in secondary play against the Cowboys in the second half, Evan, I think the light switch went on, and I think the confidence level has now hit a season high, at least in my opinion. What do you think about our secondary play, and do you think it has gotten better over the last 2 weeks?
I think it's gotten better, but it still concerns me because Brown has been playing really well lately, and Heath Miller is a very good tight end. So it still concerns me, but they have been playing better. The safeties concern me a lot, and the fact that they're still rotating McMillan in with not McMillan, they cut him. MD Jennings in with Sean Richardson constantly. I just wish they would play Richardson and see what Richardson can do, because the defense seems to play a lot better with Richardson in there. and they seem to play a lot better with Vladimir in at middle linebacker. So I think they've gotten better, but they still concern me.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little concern, but I just like the way that when we did dial up the blitz on Sunday against the Cowboys, and again, I think Tony Romo was a good quarterback, and there's a lot of weapons on that Cowboy team. I think the secondary held their own against some good receivers. I mean, Bryant got his catches, but he really didn't destroy us with, a long, big splash play. And Brown is a guy for the Steelers that we're going to have to contain. And if we can contain Brown and not give up, what they're calling in the NFL now, the splash plays, I think we'll be okay. If we can hold them to having, and I'll call it dink and dunk. If we can make them have to dink and dunk down the field, I think we have a great opportunity to win this game. And it's going to go back then to the offensive side, which, I'll say my last key with yours is being able to have good offensive line play. When we look back at the Cowboy game, the reason Matt Flynn had so much success in the second half is that he felt comfortable in that pocket. There was a little bit of pressure, but if we look, he was able at that time, with time in the pocket, to actually go through his progressions. You and I have talked about this. When he gets pressured, he locks in on one guy, and that's it. And that's going to be a sack.
Usually Jordy.
Yep, a sack or an interception, and we saw it in the first half against the Cowboys. The Cowboys blitzed, pressured Flynn. His primary target covered, so he either took the sack or he threw an interception. Second half, had a little bit of time, he was able to work down his progressions. And you and I have talked about Matt Flynn. If there's anything he needs to get better at, it's reading progressions. Now, we all know that any quarterback can be good at it if he's got time, but I think it's critical at this point. He's not going to learn it overnight how to get faster doing this. The line has to protect him. And the one thing that does concern me is how well are we going to be able to pick up Lambeau's blitz packages, because honestly, if I give any of the Steeler fans credit today that talked to me about this game at work, Cincinnati had a hard time picking up those blitz packages, and I think Cincinnati has a better offensive line than us. So what do you think will be key, Evan, on the offensive line to try and pick up some of these crafty blitzes that Lambeau's going to throw at Flynn?
Well, communication is going to be key. And I think one thing that hurt Cincinnati last week is I believe the game was at Pittsburgh.
It was.
And it's a lot harder to hear. Said it wasn't or was?
It was.
Yeah, it was at Pittsburgh, so it's going to be a lot harder to hear in Pittsburgh than it's going to be in Lambeau. So communication is going to be key, and you're just going to have to, I played offensive line, and we were always taught protect the inside first. Inside, over, outside. That's your progression as the offensive line. You look inside first because they have the most direct pass at the quarterback. Over you, if the person over you is coming, that's who you take. If there's no one coming inside, no one coming over you, then you take anybody coming to your outside. I think that's going to be key, is just communicating. And if you have to call somebody over or call, have whatever, you have to be, like I said, communicate. So I think the Packers, although they don't have as strong of an O-line as Cincinnati, I think that's something they do really well, is the communication part, especially when Evan Diedrich's missing the game. He's a very good communicator.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's in. I mean, I think he's having a heck of a year. I told you this a few weeks back. I think of all the linemen, I mean, he's not having a great stellar year, probably won't go to the Pro Bowl, but I think he's having a very good year in the middle. Like everyone, makes some mistakes, but I think he's having a great year at center. And so it's going to be very key for him to communicate those block packages and make those adjustments. I mean, that's going to be key if they're sending those crafty blitzes. But I believe they're going to be able to do it. So we're getting right around the 5-minute mark, Evan. So I don't have anything else other than expanding on that. Anything else you want to add about the game before we get to our predictions?
You mentioned it, and I forgot to. It's actually one of my keys, but I forgot to mention it. But you had mentioned it, and you said special teams. That's going to be key because both teams won their games last week due to a big special teams play. Micah Hyde's big return late in the game after they got that sack on Romo. I believe it was after that sack on Romo. Hyde returned the ball inside the 35-yard line of the Cowboys, and that set up a score there. And the Steelers had a punt return for touchdown, and you talked about the punter losing the ball at the 1-yard line. You know, both teams won their, games last Sunday due to big special teams play. So the Packers need to win the special teams battle. So that means, Hyde needs to, I'm not saying he needs to bust a return, but he needs to put them in good field position after he returns it. And when the Packers are punting or kicking off, they have to stay in their lanes. They have to run downfield under control. And when they have an opportunity to make an open field tackle, they have to get the guy down. That's what killed the Packers against Detroit. Jeremy Ross, and it still pains me to say this, killed Green Bay in that game because he would make that first person miss. And that first person was Devon House quite often. So if Devon House, if he's still that gunner, gets the opportunity to make an open field tackle, they have to get him to the ground.
Yeah, and especially with the weather. I mean, those returns were happening in a climate-controlled dome. We're now talking about if there's 3 to 6 inches of snow, what happens if people slip in their lane? And it can go either way. But I think they've got to be very disciplined. I agree with you. Very disciplined on the special team side of the ball. Both when they're giving the ball up, when they're making tackles, and also when they're returning. So I agree. We're going to have to win that special teams battle. So based on what we said, Evan, let's get to it now. This is what everybody's been waiting for. And I haven't told anybody at work my prediction yet. Nobody knows. I saved it for the Red Light Sports Ramble. So I'm going to turn it over to you, though. We always do it this way. What's going to happen in this game, Evan?
Well, in this game, what I see happening is a Green Bay Packer victory, and I see the Packers winning 24-20. They do just enough to win, and we're going to see Eddie Lacy late in the fourth quarter finishing the game. That's going to be, the reason they drafted Lacy was to be a closer, and Eddie Lacy's going to get the chance to be the closer, and he's going to get a huge first down late. That's going to allow the Packers to run out the clock, like I said, 24-20.
You might say, wow, when I get done with my prediction. I think the Packers win. And everybody's talking about, if Flynn plays, it's going to be a close game. If it was Rodgers, it's going to be a blowout. Guess where I'm going with this, Evan? Flynn plays, and the Packers still blow the Steelers. They still blow them out. They're going to take the momentum from Sunday. They're going to go in. They're at home. Home fans, Evan Witalison's going to be in the stands. They're going to play a game for Evan, and you're going to see a 31 to 14 victory.
Seconds.
The Packers are going to control this game from start to finish. They're going to win all aspects of this game because that team, to me, I said it earlier in the week, the character that team showed to not give up and to fight back, knowing they couldn't make any mistakes in the second half. They had to play perfect football, and they damn near did. And they're going to carry that over. Matt Flynn has now taken all the first-team snaps again for the third week? This guy's feeling comfortable. He's got a high level of confidence. I think the defense is playing better. I think our special teams is very good and underrated. And I think we blow them out. 31-14, Green Bay on Sunday. Your first trip to Lambeau for a regular season is going to be celebration time, Evan. So I'm going to let you wrap it up. We got 30 seconds, bud. 30 seconds to wrap up the show today.
Very awesome. Well, thanks to our listeners, and just so you all know, Troy and I are discussing, not going to divulge a lot about it, but a possible Saturday special edition brought to you by the Red Light Sports Ramble.
10 seconds.
We'll announce that when it's right, when the timing is right.
Yep, that one will be fun. With that said, everyone, we'll see you at the next red light. Enjoy the game on Sunday.